guys, we've got episode 5, Corrections for Walking. In this episode, we've got George. And George, as you can remember, is that yellow lab that just gets a little too nervous, excited about everything. And so in this episode, we're introducing new pressure to George. We're introducing the prong collar. And the previous pressure that we've used on George has been the flat collar, the slip lead, the choke chain, and now the prong collar. And some of you might ask, why do we go through all of the other different pressures with George or any other dog? And now this is just my approach. Other people can take whatever other approach they want to, but I'm trusting the owner, George's owner, to do all of the corrections and all of the groundwork while I'm gone. Mind you, this dog has never been corrected on the leash before I got in there. And so rather than me come in and assume that his owner is going to figure out how to correct him right off the bat, I integrate it slowly so that I can see how the owner's doing, how George is doing, and we can go and we can raise it when need be. All right, guys, check it out.
So prong collar, as they can see it too.
All right, guys, so I totally butcher the history lesson of the prong collar, and it's really just because there's a lot of mystery surrounding, what collars we used, how we trained with dogs. Like there's some pictures you're going to see here with dogs with spikes in the collars, and there's stories of ancient Romans using nails in the inside of the collars with dogs, just all kinds of crazy things, but kind of get a laugh at my voice going away in this video, but also some of the things I'm talking about with the prong collar. Check it out.
And they wouldn't care at all. And it would get to the point of where you're like starting to hurt the dog because of the amount of pressure you're required to give them. And so my thought is on the origin of this, and maybe I should just go home and read the origin of the prong collar, is that they created this collar. It's actually 1894, 1886, somewhere around there. So it's been around forever. Hermspringer, the company, has been around forever. And my idea is that they created this to give him equal pressure all the way around. And if you can feel from the prongs there, they're not sharp, they're rounded off on the ends. And the purpose of this is so that instead of giving him just pressure on the opposite end of the leash, this is giving him pressure all the way around. And the reason, there's many reasons why dogs can get hurt on these.
All right, so we're talking about negligence with the prong collar, which is a pretty common thing, and people are pretty negligent with all aspects of tools, whether we're talking about hammers, guns, etc., you name it. So when we're talking about the prong collar, there's a couple of things that generally people make mistakes on. Putting their dog in the kennel with the prong collar on. You don't want to do that because the prong collar doesn't come apart unless you take it apart. And so if your dog gets a little nervous or scared while you're gone and they turn the wrong way, they get caught, a dog can hang themselves in the kennel. So prong collar doesn't go on while the dog's in the kennel. Not only that, but if you've got a too big of a prong collar, if you can take that prong collar and you can stick it over the dog's head, that is too big. And what will happen is if you look at the prong collar and it's too big, it will give pressure right at that center point of the dog's neck. So instead of giving circumferential pressure all the way around, it'll be giving frontal pressure on the opposite end of whatever side you're pulling the leash from. So safety with a prong collar is paramount, and I'm kind of going through in here, sizing it, adding links to it to make sure it's a good fit for George. I'm walking him through it. I'm showing him the swivel head is where you clip your leash to. The guide ring is what you use to size the collar. And then typically on most Hermspringers, there's a trach block on the front. And the trach block is generally supposed to be on the front, but guess what? Your dog's going to scratch it. Your dog's going to shake. It's going to spin around. It's not the end of the world. And we want this collar high above the flat collar or whatever collar the dog is actually wearing. We want it right behind the dog's ears, but it can move a little bit and it's no big deal. It's not the end of the world, especially because your dog's going to scratch it and move it around on their own. All right, let's get back to it.
Okay, so I'm going to fit him so that way it's a good size, and then I'll show you at the end today how to take it off, how to adjust it. He doesn't have a kennel, does he? He does. Okay. He won't wear this if he goes in the kennel. If you ever have to put him in the kennel, he doesn't have this on. This doesn't come apart unless you take it apart. That's like one of the other ways that, and I'm sure like I'm sure this is what the other family did. They went online and they typed in horror stories of prong collars, and they saw the puncture pictures, which are all over. You'll see a puncture in the dog's neck. And I would tell you that probably 80 or 70 or 80% of the time, that's because the dog wore the collar too much. So this is not a collar that he only gets put on when we walk. This is a collar that he gets trained in. So he can wear it during the day, but I would give him like 8 hours to wear it, take it off. If you're gone, take it off. But as soon as you're home, he's got it on. And the reason he has it on is because it's going to be the communication device that we use to talk to him. Hey, do this thing. And he's like, nah, oh, okay, I'll do it now. We'll use it that way. If you only put it on for training, or if you only put it on for walking, then he'll run away from you when you try to put it on him, which is collar refusal, or he'll only behave when this thing is on, and that's collar smart. And we want him just to naturally behave better as a result of the new pressure. And the other way that dogs can get punctures is being tethered to a pole, like something thousands of pounds, concrete pole, something like that. Anytime a dog is tethered to a tree, I don't want to say every time, but generally speaking, somebody doesn't care about their dog if they're tethering it out to the tree and then leaving it there. So we won't be tethering George to it. Hi, Goofball. Oh my goodness. Hold it together, Goofball. You have a fat neck, dude. You know that? You have a fat neck. I'm going to give you another link. And I am trying to bring it up as high as I can because I don't really want it down where his chain is right now. I want it high up, typically just behind his ears. But if it slides down a little bit, it's not a big deal. I really don't want it to be down like where his flat collar would sit, just because that's where his windpipe and his trachea are. And not that this could necessarily do anything to that. I just don't want it down there. All right, now I need to teach him the collar. And he may actually, hold on, dude. He may actually need one more link. George, free. Now, all I'm going to do is I'm going to just let him hit the end of the leash. That is a correction, okay? It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but him hitting the end of the leash. Now, what he needs to do right now is he needs to figure out how to turn that off. And how he turns that off is by, good job, buddy, coming closer to me, okay? If, let's say, George was to get dramatic in that moment, like just get super dramatic, which is pretty common of George. If he was to get pretty dramatic in that moment, and now we have a little bit of struggle here, I'm not going to come any closer to him, because if I come closer to him, then I'm turning the pressure off. He's turning the pressure off by, there you go, coming to me. If he was to get dramatic, like if he was to start screaming and crying, I would look like a total jerk and stand here and watch him do that. Because that is the equivalent to the ice cream baby that's screaming in the store for ice cream. If you give him ice cream, that's what they're going to do every time. He's not being hurt, because I've got a video on the social media of me using a balloon, putting it into the prong collar and blowing up the balloon and then tugging the prong collar, and the balloon stays totally inflated. So it's not that he's like being stabbed or being hurt. It's that he's getting something new all the way around that he didn't get before. And it's a different kind of pressure. A lot of people will take the prong collar and they'll show you it kind of looks like a mother's jaw. And I think that's what they're trying to replicate. Again, I should probably read this before I start talking about it.
Yeah. Please do so. Thank you.
All right, let's take a pause in the action and let's talk about the prong collar a little bit more. So obviously, I don't know if the dog is hurt in that situation. I don't know how they feel in that situation because I can't tell you what dogs think and what they feel because I can't read their mind and I can't read their heart. However, let's talk about something in reality here for a second. If you've got a dog that is reactive, or you have a dog that's fearful, and this dog is continually making fearful decisions and reactive decisions, at some point you are not going to be able to continue to safeguard the world for your dog and its poor behavior. I just saw a video the other day of a girl who was coming in to dog sit down in Texas, and she had met these dogs before, and these owners had never done any training, and these dogs just turn into raging psychopaths every time somebody walks in. Well, long story short, the family had left, which was probably the buffer zone for the dogs. When people walk in, it's the humans could kind of safeguard, redirect, do all the things that the modern purely positive trainers are talking about to safeguard that situation. Well, they weren't there. The babysitter walked in and came in, and she got almost her entire face mauled off by these two dogs. And all because we can't correct our dog in the moment with the pressure that they need. So guys, before we start getting emotional and we start hammering our fingers into the keyboard, let's pause, let's reflect. Well, I asked my dog to sit. He's got satellites for ears. He heard me. He just doesn't care. Well, ultimately, the things that we want him to do, whether he wants to do them or not, are in his best interest. Let's keep going.
But it's been a while. So again, I'm just going to let him go out on the leash and then let him figure this out. Will you do it, bud? There you go. Good job. And all that was just him catching the end of the leash. That wasn't a obedience correction or anything like that. That was just him finding the end of the leash. George, please. Good job, buddy. And now one of the funny things about George is because he's such a nervous Nelly, he's going to get new pressure and he's going to kind of like panically dart into the least correction based thing he can do, which is plop into a down. This doesn't mean he knows it more. This just means he's like nervously diving into it. Here you go, bud. I refilled it just for you. Good job. George, please. Good job, buddy. And now this could be something that you use for people as they come into the house. This is going to be for place command, for down. The one thing that I would potentially suggest is just throw his regular flat collar on, whatever you've used in the past. He can wear 2 collars at a time, but that way, like if you're out on a walk or something, or you guys go to an event or something, you can potentially, there's a clip. It's called a safety clip. It's a double-ended leash end, so it's like the end of the leash, and it's got 2 ends to it. And you clip one to your leash and then one to your flat collar. So that way, if the prong collar comes apart, which there's only like a couple reasons why it could come apart. If it comes apart, you're still attached to the flat collar. So that way, you don't have a free roaming George throughout wherever you guys are at. Okay. Okay, you ready to take them outside? Okay, so the corrections for walking. The corrections for walking are going to be threefold. Number 1, joystick correction. So it's going to be a no, a pop, a heel in the direction we want him to be in. That's the one that we're going to use the most often. As far as like how we apply it, we think of that shoe and that foot that I sent you in the last email with the paw lined up with our hip. I usually will say front shoulder doesn't get in front of your foot. So that's the furthest that George can get. You can release George from the heel so that he can pee or sniff or whatever, but put him back into the heel as you guys continue to walk. The reason that we have these rules on the walk is because if he's behaving better in the house with obedience, then the walk is no different. Obvious. The walk shouldn't be a place where he's allowed to be a coyote. It just doesn't make any sense. Not only that, but we don't really want George to get friendly with another dog on a leash. because we don't know that other dog. And that's number one and number two places where dogs get attacked the most are on walks and in dog parks. So meeting dogs on leash, it's not a good idea. Couple that with, if George doesn't have to listen on leash when we're walking, then why would he listen when a dog's around? He's just not going to. So we want to create that flat baseline for him that heel means heel and everything else is not heel. Okay? So no pop in the direction we want him to be in, and we maintain the walk as we do it. Okay? Second correction. This is going to be one that you probably barely use with George. George might do it once today for me just out of excitement, but I don't imagine he's going to be that guy that's going to continue to do this. And it's called a sneak away correction. And a sneak away or a turn and burn or any kind of name for it, you're going to hold your leash in your hand, create a loop. And let's say you're telling George no and you're popping him back towards your hip. And you're popping him back towards your hip and he's not coming back. He's just continuing to forge ahead. So all I'm going to do, let out some of the line, turn and walk the other way, and let George hit the end of the leash. The reason I do this is because it's a big correction.
How dare you?
If George is ignoring me and forging ahead, I need something big to catch his attention. So that's what I'm going to use in that situation. Okay? And then the last one, yeah, we're almost ready, bud. The last one is going to be a 180. And a 180 is going to be essentially where, George isn't necessarily forging, but he's just not paying attention. That coming up, there's going to be a lot of distraction, and I need him to pay attention. So all I'm going to do, keep my loops, step with my right foot, turn my hips. Nope. Place. Sorry, bud. Thank you. I'm going to turn my hips 180 degrees and walk the other direction. He's going to catch it just like he did there. He's going to catch my hip and get a correction into the turn. It's just going to clean him up just a little bit. Okay? Free. Yeah. Good job, buddy. Okay. So what we'll do is I'll start with George in a sit. Good boy. I'm going to set my leash up just like this. I'm going to put a loop in here so I don't trip over it. And I'm going to say, George, heel. Nope. Heel. There you go. Good boy.
All right, guys. Another video fail. I don't have the camera wide enough to catch this. But as you can see, George got a correction right out the gate, and he kind of went into drama mode just a little bit. If I would have stopped, if I would have loosened the lead, if I would have taken the collar off at this moment, he would have learned that freaking out and the drama gets the collar off. And so as you can see, all I'm doing is a joystick correction. I'm giving him the boundary. I want him to stay within my front shoulder. And George is doing this hopping thing where he's kind of hopping as he stops and goes, because what he would like to do is he would like to park his butt and not move at all, because he's so afraid of the pressure. He's so afraid of the challenge. And this is why you need to train your fearful dogs, because if you watch towards the tail end of this video, after we get through all of this hopping, as soon as I hand him to his dad, no joke, guys, his dad was like, holy crap, this dog has drugged me down this trail so many times, and all it took was a couple of repetitions of us going back and forth for George to figure it out. And you'll see it in these next couple of clips while he's walking with his dad. He's right at his dad's hip. And it's not because the prong collar is magic, it's because it's the application of training broadly. We're teaching the dog to listen on the leash first and foremost before implementing huge amounts of pressure. We need to teach them what we want them to do before we correct them for what we don't want them to do. All right, guys, let's get back into it. Wide angle, here's the grass.
Oh my goodness. Let's try again. Ready? Heel. Good boy. Come on. Good job. Come on. There you go. George, come on. Heel. So now I kind of have a rough idea why George, come on, why he's hopping up and down like that. He's a nervous guy. Come on. He's a soft guy, too.
One thing you guys will notice is I don't stop even though the dog is giving me all the fearful signs, because I ask myself that logical statement. Is the dog being hurt? No. Is the dog being harmed? No. What am I asking the dog to do? I'm asking him just to walk with me. And we go over this in a little bit more detail here. Check it out.
And I try to like stop and aid George through those little moments, we're never going to get past it. It's just like the hardwood. If I tiptoe around it, put treats on the floor, we'll be at it for 6 months. But if I continue to walk, if I give him a little correction, keep going, he's going to figure out, oh, he just wants me to walk with me. Or, oh, dad just wants me to lay down. He doesn't want me to bounce around and jump on people. And it's going to get over that little fear response that he has much quicker because we're giving him direction versus trying to appease his fear. Questions so far? How does that look comparatively to when you normally walk him? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to do a couple more repetitions with him just to get some good shots of it. See if we can get past that hopping. I don't think he's going to do it again. You ready? Yeah. Free, buddy. Free. Good. Good job, bud. Come on. There you go. Ready? Come on. George, heel. There.
This is a real good training note right here. As you heard just a couple seconds ago, we both assumed that George was going to do the right thing. However, I was prepared to give him what he needed in that moment versus what I expected him to do. I expected him just to walk into heel because the last couple repetitions that we did were so much better. But this is why you have to be so consistent with dogs. You can't expect them to do the right thing because they're animals and you never know what they're going to do. Be surprised by them doing the right thing. Don't be surprised by them doing the wrong thing. Be prepared for that. And so, as you can see, I gave him exactly what he needed in that moment, and then the repetition coming back was just a little bit better. But ultimately, I'm going to give him the same image no matter what.
This is probably one of the most important things about my approach to fearful dogs is I don't want him to be like this forever. And the only way to get him past this is for us to be different leaders. Like if we're talking about a child and a child is afraid of storms, if you come out and go, yeah, buddy, storms are scary. What? You're the adult, the leader, the one that the child looks up to, and you're telling them that storms are scary. The kid doesn't hear anything else you have to say after that. And in the same token, like if I stop for George every time he panics and kind of shrews down into that down position, he's going to learn that every time he stops, because he's scared of pressure, because he's scared of boundaries, that if he stops, I stop. And he gets what he wants. The same thing is when he goes to the end of the leash on the prong collar. If I move closer to him, I turn off the pressure for him. If he starts screaming and crying and I take the prong collar off and he goes, ha, I got what I wanted, then he'll always scream and cry for that prong collar coming on and off. It's no different than like a kennel as well. Like you'll see dogs will scream and cry in the kennel. Somebody will shoot me a message and they'll cue the Sarah McLachlan and they'll be like, something must have happened to this dog before I got him. They scream and cry in the kennel. And I'm like, maybe, probably not. It probably just doesn't want to be in there. Well, we let him out and he stopped crying. Yeah, because that's what he wanted. And this is no different. He's a soft guy, but this is the conundrum, if you will, that a lot of people struggle with is like, he's not really doing anything detrimental to his health right now. He's just sloppily walking. However, my argument is if it's calm, which this busy street is not calm ever probably, if it's calm and he doesn't have to listen to us because he's nervous or he's fearful, then when it's not calm, forget about having any control because it's just not going to work. You ready, bud? Let's do it again. Ready? Heel. Good boy. Good job, George. Nope. Heel. Good. Come on. Ready? Come on. Right here. There you go. Good boy. Good job, buddy. Come on. Nope. Heel. Good. Do you remember when we first started with place and how he was running to the place command? This is no different. He's trying to find the stopping point so that he can get there as soon as possible without doing any heel. Heel. Come on. Come on. There you go. George. Good. You're going to show everybody how soft you are, aren't you? Free. Free. Good job, buddy. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. You going to make it, huh? Yeah, you going to make it? Oh, my goodness. Okay, come on.